What's Kahnawà? Welcome to the Kahnawà podcast, episode 12 for Kahnawà Tourism's 2024 year in review. I'm your host, Abigail Jacobs, joined in studio today by Kimberly Cross Zachary, Tourism Development Manager, and Bronwyn Johns, Tourism Public Relations Officer. Thank you for being here.
Good. For having us.
It's been quite the year. Kimberly returned after graduation from the 2-year Kawenahawe program. Congratulations. And Bronwyn, you've transitioned into a new position with the team.
Yeah, I've been moving up from one position to the next, and it works well.
So let's talk about growth and staffing. How has your staffing and leadership program evolved over time? And what steps are being taken to support all the growth?
Just to highlight, Bronwyn just said, how she's moved up into her public relations role. She was formerly our events coordinator. And before that, she started out as a tour guide. So, really taking in the people that are coming who are interested in working with our team and looking at their strengths and helping them develop into what they can really be a part of our team. And we've seen that evolving. Jordan, she's our tour coordinator. She was formerly tours and events, but her role just became so overwhelming that last year there was over 280 tours just in the summer. So she really couldn't focus on anything else. So we did bring in a separate position for that. So we also have a new person, Melina Singh, working as our events coordinator. In the next few weeks, we'll be posting for a new project coordinator and an office assistant to share between the marketing and tourism team. And we have our tour guide positions that are going to be coming up for the summer, which will hopefully run into the fall. And then we'll be reposting for the new museum once that happens. And once we're ready to open, we want to have our tour guides ready for that opening.
So the excitement is real.
Yeah.
To fill those positions.
Oh yeah, we're really excited. And then another thing that we're doing for growth is our leadership program. So this stemmed from an idea that we had to really get the community more involved in what we're doing and to get youth involved because they're the future. And we want them to see the benefits in working within the tourism industry, whether it be a tour operator or a tour guide, working in an office setting, running the museum. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of growth within the next few years with people retiring and new business opportunities. So we created this small leadership program, which is going to be a summer youth program.
Cool.
And we're gearing it towards teenagers so that they can come, learn how to be a tour guide, learn about the industry, learn how to be a tourist, in your own city. So here in Kahnawà, we're also going to do Montreal. So Jordan has been developing this program. Wow. She's the lead on that, and she's been having a lot of fun. Her and Harley Elrond, they were brainstorming it and really put together an amazing program. And we were fortunate to have some funding come through the Community Wellness Initiatives program,
cool.
as well as Indigenous Tourism Quebec to put towards that program. So we're super excited for that one this year.
So there's so much that you guys have to plan and everything that tourism does. You have recently finalized a new strategic plan. Can you share some key accomplishments from the last plan and what are some of the strategic objectives moving forward?
So we had our strategic plan, our first one, done 3 years ago, and we're just coming up to the end of that one. So starting off fresh this year with a new plan, some new staff, our team's ready to go. Our last plan was really focused on community engagement, community awareness. What is the tourism industry? What is it that we are doing? What are our goals? What are the benefits for the community? And really rooting everything that we're doing in that community-driven approach. So a lot of that is where we came up with the position Bronwyn's doing now, outreach to the community as well as to our partners outside of getting that feedback internally. And then, okay, how do we make that work into what we're building? That was one of the larger focuses of the last strategic plan. And then also networking with our partners. So with Indigenous Tourism Canada, Indigenous Tourism Quebec, Tourism Montreal, Tourism Montérégie, those were the main 4 that we wanted to focus on. So that's part of both myself and Bronwyn's roles is to really maintain those relationships and help develop them into what we can grow with and how it's going to benefit our community. So right now, I think we have a great relationship with our Indigenous partners and with Montreal and Monterrey, we're really strengthening that relationship right now. It's a lot of teaching at first, for educating their staff about who we are, about our community, about what our businesses are, who is our tourism industry. And then it's about, okay, setting that partnership and that agreement of how are we going to work together. So that's the steps that we're on right now. So we're kind of in the cusp of finishing our last strategic plan and starting our new one at the same time.
Nice. And so, Bronwyn, you've been the boots on the ground. You guys wanted to do community engagement and you've been out there doing Let's Talk Tourism and meeting with all these external partners. So how has that been going?
It's been amazing. It's really nice to see the positive feedback when we're set up at our Let's Talk Tourism booths. And a lot of people don't know what happens in the tourism industry in Kahnawà. They see people walking around with our green bags, but they don't necessarily know where the people are coming from, what they're coming for. So it's really nice to be able to just give that little bit of information. And I've been really showcasing the museum and cultural center. So a lot of people have seen the construction happening, but don't know the details of it. So when they see the plans and hear about what's happening, that pride you see light up in them, from young children to our elderly people in the community, you just see that this is something that belongs to the whole community and everybody's going to benefit from it. But also our tourists are going to have somewhere to learn about us in depth and walk away with a better understanding of who we are. And our partners that we're partnering with, they have that same mentality that we're a little hidden gem that they didn't know about. And we're 15 minutes from all these different locations that they feel that they have the duty to make sure that they learn more about us and that they get their visitors to know who the original people of the land are.
Love that. So now moving forward, what are some of your strategic objectives for tourism?
Moving forward, we're really strengthening everything that we've developed over the last 3 years. We didn't want to go too big, too fast. Slow and steady has been our pace, and it's been working. And what we are focusing on is really our staff, making sure that we have enough capacity for the new building, working on that marketing plan for the new building, because it's going to take a lot. If we want to bring a lot of people in, we need to plan that properly, and working on that partnership, right, with the building committee, because it's not just our building, we're sharing it. So everything that goes into that takes a huge chunk of my job right now, but it's an amazing process. So we have, our building committee who oversees the capital campaign, who's overseeing the design of the building, the museum design. We have our construction that's happening. So there's the website that we have to do. We have all these little aspects that go with it. So just maintaining that relationship and being a part of it and making sure that we're prepared for when it opens in a year. So the tourism role in that will be coordinating the tours, because we do partner with the cultural center right now for their tours, and we provide the tour guides and make sure that the bookings are taken care of. So that way the language and cultural center can focus on language and culture. They don't have to focus on visitors coming in. So they can really keep that within the community, and we can focus on the external demands. We're also going to be leading the gift shop in the museum. So preparing for that and making sure everybody has their portion and, with their merchandise, but then also, will the building have specific merchandise that we're going to sell there? Will we have consignment items from different artists that will be on sale there? Similar to how we do it at the Welcome Center. And all of our events, in the future are going to be there at this new building. So we're really stoked for that.
And engaging with the community, working on these projects, how important to all of the success of this is it to have your local collaborations? Can you give us some examples of working with local businesses and organizations, engaging with the community?
It's really awesome that a lot of organizations that are in the restaurant business really see the value of what we're doing, and they get on board with all of our events, and they're more than happy to be part of our team and support that growth of the economics in the community. And whenever anybody comes to the community, they always want to shop. So it's really awesome that we get to push the Shop Kahnawà with the visitors that come here, and the people that are running these shops in the community really see the benefit of having that openness with people, and they get so many return customers that'll come every week to get corn soup, for instance,
Nice.
or go get some white corn. Everybody was getting their maple syrup here, so it's
Mm-hmm.
really awesome to see that it's not just a one-stop shop. It's that return client that's coming back, and people in the community are seeing the value in that.
Cool. So, like you were saying, people come to get their maple syrup, and you're gathering new visitors, and you guys host a lot of events. You do a lot of event outreach with the outside visitors. Can you discuss the role of these events and how they've contributed to the growth and visibility of the organization?
Yeah, so we started our events probably about 7 or 8 years ago. My brain is foggy of years. So we aimed at starting these events to bring our people in Kahnawà together with our visitors, because all of our ceremonies are all done in private at
Mm.
Longhouse.
Mhm.
We celebrate our cycle of ceremonies throughout the year, and that's a huge part of our people, a huge part of our culture that we can't share, and that's okay. So in brainstorming, we said, well, what is a way that we can share part of our culture with our visitors?
Mhm.
And that's food. Everybody wants to eat. And every time we have ceremony, we have food.
Yep.
And we have some main ceremonies that are focused just on food. So we
Mhm.
looked at those and we said, okay, maple, strawberry, corn, and harvest. Why not host an event where it's focused on just that? And we tell the story about why strawberries are important, why maple is important. And we have our local producers who are there on site, either showcasing or selling, and all the activities around those events will be focused on that food. So, Corn Fest, we have corn husk dolls, we have corn for sale to eat. We make sure all the vendors who are at the event have something of that
Mm.
dish, and it could be modern, it could be traditional, as long as it's incorporated. And it really brings people together in a really nice way, in a safe way, that we're not oversharing our culture, we're being mindful, and it's respectful and it's fun. It's a fun family activity. It's safe, and it brings that extra dollar also to our artisans who can set up, because we always have vendors.
Yep.
We have business restaurants. So they're out there making money. And all we're doing is promoting it and bringing people together and having a good time. That was one of the main catalysts, of the way that our activities changed, and we've seen so much growth within it. Like Bronwyn said, we've seen the businesses jumping on board, and we don't host just the main event, we host a month long of that food. So in the past month in March, we just had Maple Food Fest. So we encouraged restaurants who maybe can't do a pop-up at our local event, but they could do all month long specials. So they had Sugar Shack brunch,
Mhm.
like Screaming Chef, for example. They had a special salad dressing made with maple
Mm.
syrup. Like, they're very innovative.
Yes.
And we see businesses waiting for this season now. Oh, I'm gonna think about it, and I'm gonna wait, and I'm gonna have that special during the strawberry or corn season.
Yeah. No, and it's like you said, like it's been 5 to 7 years that you guys have been starting to incorporate these regular events and having it as part of the community calendar that we've now come to expect, and they're getting bigger every year. And you're getting more reach and more visitors and more community involvement. And it's really nice to see.
It is, and it's really important also that it showcases our food, and that we're reclaiming our foods, and that
Yeah.
we're showing how to eat our foods, because some people have been so disconnected from that. So it's part of a bigger picture,
Mm-hmm.
and these little events are really reconnecting us to our roots. And one of the main goals through Indigenous tourism isn't just economic development and prosperity, it's also revitalizing our culture through tourism.
Mhm.
So we see that happening within our community by supporting the different programs and incorporating them into our events.
One awesome event that really stuck with me was last year, the Harvest Fest. The weather was not on our side. We had Chef Tanya Brandt from Six Nations that came down to do cooking on the fire. We had all sorts of demonstrations outside. That still kept going. We had to move all the vendors inside, so we were making the best of it. But then Dave McCumber showed up with a group of Ainu people from Japan,
Cool.
and it was totally unexpected, but he's like, well, they're here and I didn't know where to bring them. So it ended up just being a perfect afternoon where they showcased their
Oh my
culture. We
gosh.
had some of our young men in the community that showcased our songs and our dances. So it just ended up, even though the weather wasn't on our side, everything worked out perfectly, and it was a perfect space for him to be able to bring these guests in our community to meet our people. So those type of things are always awesome takeaways. And there's so many different events that we've had where you walk away and you're like, that was really fun, and everybody had a really nice time. So it's just something that every event we put together, we're trying to think of something that'll attract different demographics,
Yeah.
get the younger people in, get the guys to come in,
Yeah.
get everybody from the community to come in and just check it out.
I love that. You put the food out, you get everybody to gather at the table, get everybody there, and then you have all this interest in the culture. You have the pride in our culture that the community is sharing. And then you move on to kind of the educational aspect of it, and you give people tours of our community. What can you tell us about the tour offerings and what is required to be a tour guide?
I don't know per se what would be required. You have to be comfy with being able to talk. That's really the biggest part. Growing up in the community, everybody's had a different experience, from younger people to older people. So everybody has something different to bring to their experience of giving the tours. We do stick to a basic timeline of when we moved here, our history here, but then there's always that little extra spice you add in with your own personal stories. So it's really nice.
You're
And
like, well, my Dada always
yeah,
told me this
exactly,
way, and this is what I
Those are the
know.
best parts of the tour, and that's what you'll
exactly,
remember.
Yep.
exactly. So
Authenticity. Yeah.
exactly, it's all about that authentic experience. So it's really nice to see, like, at the end of a tour, for example, somebody will ask to give you a hug, or they'll send you an email back after they land, and they're like, it was such an amazing experience. So
Cool.
we really see the value of it. This month we're offering cultural awareness tours every Wednesday at the cultural center. So we had our first one yesterday, and we had about a group of about 8 people. It's booked for an hour, but an hour is never enough to be able to get all the information in, and also to be able to answer questions, because people are coming from all different areas, and they all have different questions based on schooling or their lived experiences. So at the end, there's always a good Q&A question period. And everybody walks away with smiles on their faces. And one of our stage students was with me yesterday for the tour, and at the end he was just like, I never knew that. And I was like, I'm happy. So he had been reading the tour book, he had been doing all his research, but there's just small things that we pick up in the industry, and being able to meet different people that we're able to bring back to the tours. And it's just really a positive experience that really builds that bridge with us and the outside world, because we haven't been put in the education system, in the mainstream. We've been hidden for a long time. So
Mhm.
it really bridges that gap and raises that awareness and causes that ripple effect, that now they're going to go home and they're going to be able to tell their family, their friends, who we are. So
Yeah.
it's awesome. And to come visit us at our new museum.
And of course, I mean, the fun question is like, you say like there's people from all over who come. What are some of like the craziest places maybe, or the unexpected visitors that you've reached in our tours that have come to Kahnawà?
So last year, Harley Delron did a tour with the King of Cameroon.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that was
yes.
actually the coolest. But I did a tour with 50 representatives from all of the countries from South America. They came here for a tour on climate change.
Cool.
That was really impactful. We've done tours with people from the Congo.
Wow.
From yesterday, they were from Austria,
Whoa.
Germany. I've had tours with people from Madagascar. So it's really, they look us up. They're eager to find us. So it's really nice to see that they're putting in the work to find us, and then they make their way here, and then they get such a great experience to leave with.
That's crazy. That's really humbling to think that, we're just here, we're in our bubble, and it's like, we're going to walk, we're
We're
just
pretty cool.
And we're fortunate though, like with our partnerships, they do a lot of the marketing for us around the
Okay.
world. So
Wow.
with Indigenous tours in Quebec and Canada, they're out there. So they know Kahnawà pretty well now. And they're out there really promoting for us with the tour operators, with people. Like there was an event in Belgium last year at their winter
Cool.
markets. And we actually had Kahnawà Hironu who went there to
No.
perform. Yeah, Owen Mayo and his wife Queena and his children, they
Yes.
went and they were performing at that event. And Leilani Shah, she was
Wow.
actually the graphic artist that made the projections on one of the buildings. And so it's really, there's so many opportunities
Yeah.
in the industry, and a lot of our partners are helping us make those connections and get out there. But like Bronwyn said, there a lot are just finding us. A lot just want to know and come here. And Kahnawà is pretty famous. Anywhere we go, like if you're Mohawk or Kahnawà, people are going to know where you're from.
Yeah. And so now we have this growing demand for your services, for tourism services. How do you adapt to the shifting needs and interests of your clientele while maintaining cultural authenticity of our offerings?
We get a whole lot of requests at the Welcome Center. Some come in by phone, by email. Some are just walking in that day and expect us to answer their school project of 50 questions.
Ooh.
So we try to be real with them.
Mhm.
Like we are people too.
That is the Mohawk way.
If it's something that's really not in our scope of services that we offer, we let them know. And if we can put them in touch with somebody who does offer that, then we will. Usually we'll try to make connections within community members. Or if it's not in our community, we'll say, well, maybe reach out to another community. We had an event that they were reaching out to us for partnership, and they wanted to represent the Mohawks, but on another river. And I said, well, maybe connect with like the people, the Abenaki people near, because that's more the region you're going to be highlighting in this activity. It's not
Nice.
really the Kawenahawe. And he's like, oh, okay. So, it's educating people and really looking at their requests and what do they want, because we do all this marketing, right? Sometimes we are the first that come up when they're searching Indigenous. We're close to Montreal, so it's like we're the easy connection. But sometimes we really need to put our foot down and say no.
Yeah.
We can't fulfill every request because we get so many. And, we've started to take note of all of our requests because there's so many, and saying, okay, well, how long does it take us to make these connections or to respond or fulfill or do the research that's required of all these requests coming in? Like, is that a part-time position? Because there's so many that come in, and it's not just to us. We get from MCK. MCK gets a lot of requests from people all over, so they send it to us. How do we fit that into our everyday work routines?
Yeah.
It's challenging. We have the tour requests come in. We have our tour request process, but it's the external requests that we get. So maybe performances in Montreal, or somebody wants a speaker to come and do an opening, or participate at their events, or come and do a pop-up kiosk at their event. So it's really, how do we balance what's going to benefit for us, what's going to make us those positive connections, what's really the best bang for our buck, where are we going to send our people to get that best result. So it's really being strategic sometimes, all the time. And sometimes we get requests that are just totally not respondable, not us. And, sometimes we're like, I'm sorry, but
But what I like is how you highlighted, making those connections even when the request is coming to us, but maybe we can't help, and Bronwyn, like you mentioned at one of the events, we had somebody come from Six Nations, we're bridging these gaps and making these other connections and sharing as much as we can. Some of the offerings that I know you guys have recently added is also supporting the local business community, where you have, workshops that can be booked for certain clientele if that's what they're interested in. And that's really cool as well. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, we had Chelsea Phillips that was offering basket making workshops, so we were working with her, and now she has just gotten so busy. So we don't know where that will go in this coming summer. But we have lacrosse workshops, we have different workshops for medicine walks, we have all sorts of different options. It depends on who in the community is ready to work with us and give us that offering. So everywhere we go, I'm always encouraging people that are into the arts, that have that talent on the side that they don't know what to do with. Give us a call. Let us know your availability, because then we can help work with them to be able to offer more things for the guests that are coming.
And I think we've seen a lot of interest with some of our business people. So, for example, Kirby Joe with fishing.
Yeah.
So during the summer, during the winter, we just did our Indigenous Tourism Conference, and we had a group of delegates come and do ice fishing. And he's a great example because he really wants to dive into that, and no pun on words there with fishing, but like to dive into it to really see if he can make that, his full-time profession and a future for his kids or his family, and make that, really a small business that he can thrive off of through the tourism industry. So that's also part of our strategic plan. I didn't get to finish answering, was looking at what are the development opportunities that we can help support businesses to grow and to offer as part of those extra activities in our tours, whether it be workshops or activities, and really identify them right now and help strengthen them. Maybe they need some extra funding and they need that help to get there. Maybe they just need a connection to help make a business plan.
Yeah.
So working with Dunizakta and saying, okay, business services can help you with so and we can help you with this, and let's just make it a full circle of helping our people get the best place they can be.
And we've talked about, having outside visitors come in and experience and get educated on our histories and our culture. But how has the integration of tourism into local educational curriculums helped raise awareness? And what roles do the schools and teachers play in promoting tourism to our younger generation?
So right now we get a lot of outside schools, so outside of the community, coming in to do tours. We see teachers taking it upon themselves to fit it into their curriculum
Nice.
about Indigenous people. And because we're so close to Montreal, we're naturally the first ones that they're going to contact so they can come
Cool.
for a day visit. So we have a lot of, from probably, I'd say grade 3 all the way up until high school, who are coming and doing day visits where they do cultural center, they do a walking tour, they'll do a lacrosse workshop, they'll have lunch, and they're learning so much. There's even the New Frontier School Board has taken it upon themselves, and they've hired an Indigenous advisor
Nice.
for their schools. So it's actually Dwayne Stacy, one of our tour guides. So he works for New Frontiers, and because they were coming and they were doing all these tours, they saw the need to have somebody in their schools because they have a lot of Indigenous students who come from our community in their schools, but they also want that incorporation of the culture into their regular curriculums and activities in school. We see that happening a lot. And in the past few weeks, we did have discussions with our local education center to see if we could make that possible for our own students. So part of our new strategic plan is to really incorporate offering it to our community free of charge.
Nice.
Because, we're making some money off of our other tours that are coming in. We don't see that our children should have to pay for that, our school systems. So we are offering it to our education center, and we're in the discussions right now, and we're looking at how can we tailor our specific tours to fit what they're learning in their curriculum in those years, so that it's a good match. So that way, if they're doing the tour in grade 3, in grade 4, they're not going to do the same tour.
Yep.
We might pilot it with the grade 6s and grade 12s.
Cool.
This coming year, and develop that curriculum with the curriculum team and make sure that our tour guides are ready. Part of one of the questions you asked earlier was, what are the requirements of being a tour guide? Well, a lot of it is like group management and leading groups and being able to public speak, but also if you're doing it with children, it's different. So you manage an adult group differently from a group of children.
Yes, you do.
So not all of our tour guides have those strengths. So we really have to look at who are the best fit for those groups. And every time we have a group that's coming in, we ask, okay, what are their interests and who would be the best tour guide to fit to that? Because they tell stories in different ways. So like, we know the strengths of our tour guides and we put them where we think it's appropriate.
I did 2 tours last year with a group of grade 2s from Kahnawà. I was like, okay, this is my youngest group. Am I going to bore them? And by the end of it, they loved it. They had their hands up and they're like, this is the best. And I was like, yay. So it was really nice to see their engagement. It was nice because they already know some stuff. So I was able to do like a fun like quiz trivia back with them, and they learned so much things that they see the Seaway, but they don't know the story about the Seaway. So they learned a lot of things that they walked away with. And then I did another tour group with Kawenahawe, of grade sixes. And when they went back, my coworker's son was in the group, and she was like, I don't know what you said in that tour, but my son had just been talking about it the whole time after he got back. So
Awesome.
it's really, really nice because it really creates that pride inside of them.
Yep.
It creates that little spark of fire that they realize how awesome we are, and to be proud of themselves and all the hard work that they're doing in the schools to learn the language and put that work in, and learning all of our cultural stories of why it's so valuable to us. And so it's really, really nice. Next week, I got requested to do a grade 3 group
Okay.
from Kawenahawe. So I was like, oh, they requested me. So it's really just really nice to be able to give back to the community like that and to see the positive spin-off from it.
Nice.
And then with the new center next year,
Mm-hmm.
well, it'll be the next probably school year, but we'll be able to invite the schools to come and experience the museum because it's a community space. We want the youth to feel that they're a part of it, that they own a part of it too, so they can go and hang out. Maybe they're gonna work there one day. Maybe they'll be a tour guide. Maybe they'll do Erdadi Wanna near that. You never know. Maybe they'll be in theater.
Mm-hmm.
So we really want the youth especially to see what are the benefits and how they can be involved and how they can be proud of who they are.
Awesome. And that's it. Encouraging this pride and the confidence in your culture and yourself and your community and getting the youth to participate. What impact has this had on fostering their community culture that you have them participating in your events? And you do, right? You engage with also the youth into your events. So how has that been going?
And this is just a personal observation
Yeah.
because our kids are always around. Like the tourism family, it consists of our kids. So they have their little hoodies and they run around at our events and they're helping greet visitors. When we're busy, maybe not attending the table, they're like, "Oh, here, take a map." Or I'm not even joking. Like it's so funny, and they take it upon themselves. Like at the powwow was a great example because we were so busy at the powwow. Some people weren't getting served right away at the kiosk.
Okay.
My son and Lacey's daughter started to just hand out on their own. And then Bronwyn's son came in and just started getting involved. We're like, hey, look at you guys taking that initiative. And like, what? We can do this too.
Nice.
And then when we had the Longhouse display too at Powwow a few years ago, our kids really saw the pride and they're like, well, next time you do that, I want to work at that one. I'm going to sit
Cool.
in there and I'm going to tell stories.
Love
Literally
that.
this morning on our way to school, my little guy had something from the Maple Fest, and my stepson was sitting there, and he's like, well, I didn't know about it. And he's like, well, it's the Maple Fest. It happened 2 weeks ago. He's like, now you got to wait till next year.
And it will be here next year.
Like you just see their pride because they're seeing what we're doing and we're leading by example, and they're seeing the hard work that goes into it, but also the benefits. And like my son, when the new building's going up, I was driving with my kids and he had 2 friends in the back seat, and it was also friends whose parents were working on the site or on the building.
Nice.
So like we're in, and I didn't think anything of it, we're driving by and my son goes, hey, look, my mom's working on the committee to get that building built. And then one of his friends goes, yeah, well, my dad's doing the museum design.
Yeah.
And then his other friend says, well, yeah, my dad's doing all the trees. And then they're like, I think I'm going to work there one day.
Aww.
And I sat driving, crying because I was so proud,
Yep.
and we just hear that, and I see like one of my co-committee members, Lisa, she's always talking about her granddaughter, they drive by and she's like, Dora, look, that's your work. When is it going to be done? And, our kids are there with us.
Yep.
They're why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we do everything in the community. It's all for the next generations. It's not for our benefits. So really, like, the youth, like we see them engaged. We did the KSS career fair and talking to the students there, and we're right next door to the construction, and we had the building designs behind us, and they said, is that what it's going to look like? That's what's going to be in there? That's what they said. That's going to be ours. I said, yeah, you can participate in everything that's going to be there. And you just saw their eyes light up at the opportunities and what they were thinking. It was just, we were mind blown because they were so unaware. So by giving them that opportunity, to think about it, and we know it's in their brains now, like, okay, they know there's possibilities.
Then we had our Harvest Fest last fall, and we were able to get a group of the young boys and girls that are doing the singing groups, and they came out and showcased some dancing and singing at the end of the day. And just to see them sharing and being there with smiles on their faces is priceless.
Yeah.
And then having our youth open up the conference that was held at Palais de Congrès. The youngest was 7 years old,
Oh.
and the oldest person on stage was in their 30s. It's all that younger demographic, and they shook the room. The
Yeah.
whole it was like you were at a concert, and it was just our youth up there doing what they do, and watching some of the shyest girls lead the women's dance. It just brought tears to my eyes, and I was so proud. And that's really the takeaway, is the pride.
Yep. And of course, with all of the opportunities and the future that we want to support and encourage, there is the nitty gritty. There is the hard work that you guys do behind this. And there is the funding that we have to make sure as tourism, as Deweduni Zakta, that we can make sure is there to continue these important things. So can you provide any insights on how funds are allocated or what specific areas or projects the organization is prioritizing for funding?
Currently, our funding all comes through Deweduni Zakta, which is funneled by MCK. So we put our annual budget requests through Deweduni Zakta, and MCK funds our activities for the most part. So that's most of our salaries, most of our activities, most of our marketing, office supplies, all those silly things that go in with, having an office. But then also we have other projects that we work on that are not funded through our core funding and our yearly operations. So some things are strategic and some things we find grants for. So that's part of my job. And our project coordinator that'll be coming on to really look for those grants every single year and look for long-term grants or partnerships that we can sustain, different activities throughout the years. So some of the examples in the past, we've received funding from the Tourism Relief Program that was post-COVID. We've received funding through Indigenous Tourism Quebec for different development funds, digital marketing. Same with Tourism Montérégie. There's different programs that we receive through our partners, because by paying into their memberships, we
Okay.
get that advantage of applying for their funding programs that come from the government. There's many different ones out there, and we're always seeking for new opportunities that we can apply for more grants to pay our honorariums, perhaps for our performers, for our events. We also partner for sponsors. So an example, in our last event that we had, the Maple Fest, we had Playground and the Rail sponsor that one, and they sponsored the brunch, and they were actually there, Playground Cares, serving the brunch.
Yeah.
That's been a few years now we've had that partnership with them, and they really enjoy coming every year, and it's their way of giving back to the community as well, and showing who they are in their faces and being a part of the community. And then the Caisse des Jardins Kahnawà, they are a huge sponsor for a lot of our different events, and we're beginning to discuss with many different partners. Okay, well, do you want to sponsor for this event? We try to partner with different organizations so that we don't have to take the whole load of some of the funding, or perhaps if we can partner with the cultural center, maybe they can apply for funding that we're not eligible for because they're a non-for-profit. Really looking at all the avenues of where we can make the best use of our finances, sticking within our budgets for everything, but then where can we get that extra if we do need it? And then all the revenues that we make from tours goes right back into funding our tour guide salaries, funding any of our marketing. So we're not really making a profit. We've never had a surplus. We're really just
Goes right back in.
going right back into our activities and making sure that we have all of the equipment we need to do all of everything that we do.
Amazing. Well, you guys are doing amazing work, and I'm so excited to see what 2025 is going to bring. Since this is a year in review, last question, what would have been your highlight of 2024?
My highlight moment of 2024 would have to be at International Film Fest that happened in Montreal. They had some people from the Maori Nation that came, and we all had the opportunity to learn a haka for missing and murdered Indigenous women. So that was the most powerful thing.
I just got chills.
Right? And it was just so moving, and I wouldn't have had that. I wouldn't have known about that, and I wouldn't have been there if I wasn't working a tourism table at that event. So it was just very, very powerful to have all these women there and to have these women sharing that with us. And they reiterated that it was only for that moment and not to take that and go and do it somewhere else, and that they were sharing that with us. So it was really, really awesome to see that there's so many people that are coming together through the work that is being done through tourism.
Cool.
I think my highlight would have been in December when we did our first visit to the new building
Yes.
as a team.
I was fangirling.
And I had goosebumps the whole time, you know, walking through, being a part of the process for the past almost 10 years. You know, it was surreal. And to walk through like the almost hallways. At that time, it was a lot of steel and cement still being finished. But to see our workers, you know, our men putting up the steel, it was on September 30th when they put the last steel beam up. And we had a little topping off ceremony. I think that was the highlight for me, you know, seeing how proud they were to work on that building for the future, how much dedication all of our team were there. And that was just such a special moment. You know, September 30th, it's a day of reconciliation. It's a day of remembering. And what better way to celebrate us moving forward than putting that building up and being there in solidarity together. And that's resilience right there. You know, it's coming back. So I think that was the highlight. And my kids were there. They were able to stand in the parking lot. They weren't able to go on site, but they were watching as it happened. They didn't really know what was going on, but like they were standing there with my husband and they were watching from afar. And even some of the other committee members had their kids who were working on it. So it was just so special.
Cool.
That was the highlight for me.
Amazing. An awesome year and many more great things to come. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, Kawenahawe for hosting us. You were great too.
I'm Abigail Jacobs for episode 12 of Kahnawà. From here at Dewat Dunit Zakda, we'd like to say Nyawa for listening.